Hello everybody, I am Nikhil and I am the faculty of economics at IIS Baba. Friends, today we are going to look into economics, the strategy which we should adopt to clear this subject called economics in prelims. My dear friends, we have reached the final phase. And why I am calling this as the final phase? Because we have 5.5 months left for prelims. That is approximately 165 days. We need to cover 7 subjects. Apart from just covering these 7 subjects, it is very essential for us to revise at least 3 to 4 times these 7 subjects before appearing prelims. My dear friends, we need to understand that though this daunting task is possible, but it is challenging and it requires detailed planning. Because without planning, my dear friends, it becomes extremely difficult for you to manage time. We need to have a blueprint of what we are going to do for the next 165 odd days. Other than that, not just planning, we also need to optimize resources. We have plenty of resources. We need to optimize them so that we can repeatedly revise them. Apart from that, consistent execution of plan is necessary with proper guidance. Dear friends, let us try to focus on essentials of economic preparations. Friends, we need to understand that the winds are changing. Because the way UPSC was asking questions before, there is a marked divergence from the way the UPSC is asking questions now. Now UPSC is focusing more on conceptual clarity. My dear friends, UPSC needs you to understand the concepts very well. They're delving deeper into concepts. Apart from that, UPSC also is testing your awareness. And apart from that, UPSC is wanting aspirants to be more precise, especially with the emergence of questions which involve options like only 1, only 2, only 3 and only 4. UPSC is demanding precision from you. And precision can be arrived at only by repeated revision. This is exactly why I told you that it is important for us to revise these 7 subjects 3 to 4 times to arrive at precision. Understanding my point? So that is why we are at the final phase. And whether we are going to appear for the mains next year or not depends upon how well we utilize these 165 days, my dear friends. Every day we need to plan. Every day we need to execute this plan, optimize our resources, and then we need to work hard so that this really makes a difference. So what do I mean by conceptual clarity? So let us take an example of the question which was asked last year. So the question says, with reference to the physical capital in Indian economy, consider the following pairs. Farmer's plow, working capital; computer, fixed capital; yarn used by weaver, fixed capital; petrol, working capital. To answer this question, my dear friends, there is no scope for educated guessing here, because the nature of options are only 1, only 2, only 3 and only 4. Understand, my dear friends, questions like these require conceptual clarity. We need to know before going to the exam, what do you mean by working capital? What is the difference between working capital and fixed capital? Alright, till now we used to study economics that there are 4 factors of production. What are they? Land, labor, capital and enterprise. But however, UPSC is getting a bit deeper. It is delving deeper and segregating this capital into fixed capital and working capital. So UPSC wants you to know the concepts clearly, and you need to delve a bit deeper. Understanding my point? So when questions like this appear in your exam, you need to be very much precise. You can only be precise when you have conceptual clarity and you have repeatedly revised them. Understanding my point? So this was just an illustration to show that how important conceptual clarity has become when it comes to UPSC, my dear friends. Apart from that, we need to be aware. Let us take another example of another question. In this question, the statement 1 says that if the United States of America were to default on its debt, holders of US Treasury bonds will not be able to exercise their claims to receive payments. This is the first statement. The second statement is the US government debt is not backed by any hard assets but only by the faith of the government. My dear friends, this question was in the news because there was almost a talk of the default of debt by the US government. There was almost a deadlock reached. Because of that, this question appeared in the news. So the point is, you need to not just be conceptually clear, but you need to be aware of things that are happening around you. And when I talk about awareness, I am reiterating the fact that you need to be aware of the economic events that have taken place in the last one and a half years, my dear friends. Understanding my point? So this question can be solved with conceptual clarity. as to what bonds are, what do you mean by government debt, but you need to be aware because many articles were written on the possibility of US defaulting on its debt, my dear friends. Apart from that, so these are the two things which UPSC is trying to do. It is bringing in a sweet mix of conceptual clarity as well as the awareness of the current affairs that are happening around you. What should be the strategy to navigate these choppy waters of prelims? My dear friends, understand one thing. First thing we need to know is we need to know our enemy. And what do I mean by knowing our enemy? Knowing our enemy here basically means knowing and understanding the lines in which UPSC is going to ask your question. So a thorough analysis of previous year questions is essential to clear prelims. My dear friends, what do I mean by analysis of questions? It is not just a vague term. I'm not just giving you a vague definition as to what analysis of previous year questions mean. Analysis of previous year question, I mean very specific. I want you to understand that you need to do three essential things when you're analyzing previous year questions. One is you need to map the topic. Second is you need to extract the content. And third is you need to practice repeatedly. So I am trying to tell you these three things. When I say analysis of previous year questions, I basically mean three things. One, topic mapping. Second, content extraction. And third, practice. So let us try to understand what do I mean by these three terminologies called as topic mapping, content extraction and practice. My dear friends, I am just giving you an illustration of how and what is meant by topic mapping. My dear friends, I have tried to analyze, in this slide, I have tried to analyze where the questions were asked from the past from 2013 to 2024. So, while I read through these questions, I just try to map the topics from where questions were asked. Let us try to take the first topic called as money and types of money. From money and types of money, questions were asked about CBDC. Apart from that, merchant discount rate. Alright, central bank digital currency, merchant discount rate. Apart from that, payment and settlement, that is National Payment Corporation of India. Different apps. What do you mean by a legal tender? Etc. So basically, what do I conclude from this? I conclude this thing. Whenever I am reading this chapter called as money and different types of money, I need to be very careful. I need to be very conceptually strong because we need to know the definition of legal tender. Apart from that, we need to analyze all the current affairs in such a way that anything which has happened in the past 1.5 years, which is related to money and types, there is a very high possibility that it gets asked in the exam. Understanding my point? Let us go to the next topic. The next important topic is RBI and role of RBI. My dear friends, this has been one of the favorite topics and favorite questions, favorite topics for UPSC. Understand one thing. RBI plays different roles. RBI dons different hats. Now we need to be very careful as to what are the different roles played by the RBI and how is it executing its role. So let us try to understand different types of operations and functions which RBI performs, because every year, almost every year, there is a question on RBI and the role RBI plays. For example, the role of RBI related to sterilization, the role of RBI related to controlling inflation, the role of RBI relating to the lender of the last resort. So, when you look into the previous year questions, when you analyze previous year prelims questions from 2013 to 2024, you safely conclude some things. What are they? That whenever there is a new type of money introduced, whenever there is a new app or whenever there is a new bill which is passed, which deals with payment and settlement, that automatically becomes important. This is exactly what I mean when I say topic mapping. So, I tell you, I reiterate the fact that previous year questions from 2013 to 2025 should be analyzed from three vantage points. One is topic mapping. Topic mapping means you go to the questions and you analyze from which topic these questions were asked. Now let us look into another topic to get a better clarity. Let us go to banking. My dear friends, in banking, even in banking, almost every year there is a question asked. Last year also there was a question asked about non-banking financial corporations or NBFCs. So banking becomes important. And in banking, what type of questions are asked, my dear friends? Questions relating to NPAs. because NPS was in the news. Because if you know that especially from 2014 to 2020, India was struggling with this problem of NPS. We have largely been able to check NPS right now, but there was a time when NPS was hitting major headlines. So throughout the year, if you had read the newspaper, many a times you would have encountered this term called as NPS at that point of time. So NPS was very important. We have asked questions about banks, board, bureau. So any reform in the banking sector, that becomes important. So it requires you to be very much aware about what is happening in the banking industry, because understand one thing, banks are intermediaries they play a prime function in mobilizing savings and channelizing savings into investment, which becomes extremely important for the growth of our country. Apart from that, share market, financial market has become one of the most favorite topics of UPSC. Now, every year there was a question. In fact, last time there was a question. There were 5 questions with respect to share market. One is collateralized buying and lending obligations, exchange traded funds, US defaulting on its rent, syndicate lending, corporate bonds and government securities. My dear friends, any major reform that is happening in the share market, any major waves that are seen in the financial markets becomes automatically important. Now, after arriving this, now how did I arrive it? I tried to segregate all the questions that were asked from 2013 to 2015. Money and types, these are the questions. From these questions, I tried to map the topics. And from here, what? From here, my dear friends, what we should do is, we need to do something called as content extraction. After having mapped the topic, we exactly know, topic mapping basically means what? We now know which questions, we now know which topic is important. We now know which topic is important. Having understood the importance of topics, we can optimize our resources. And when I say optimize our resources, we can optimize our time as well as the resources or the content which we need to follow. Apart from topic mapping, we need to also extract some content from the previous year questions, because some options are directly asked in the next year. Understanding my point or not? Some options which were asked in the previous years have a very high chance that the UPSC is going to frame a question on these options. So content extraction is very important. Apart from that, previous year questions also helps you to practice. Understand one thing, UPSC has a language. And when I say language, my dear friends, though they are using English, but there is a particular tone and tenure which they associate. Alright. So there is a way in which UPSC is going to frame wrong options, and there is a way in which UPSC is going to frame right options. So if we practice on previous year questions, we would be very much able to grasp the knowledge of UPSC. Understanding my point or not? So knowing your enemy means analyzing your previous year questions, through which you get into a sneak peek into the minds of the UPSC paper setter. Analysis of previous year questions basically includes 3 things: topic mapping, content extraction, and practice, my dear friends. Now, apart from that, we also need to prepare short and crisp notes. Now, after topic analysis, you know which topics are important and which topics are not important. So you need not read everything that is in your book, because everything in your book is not important. Notes of important topics should be prepared in a very crisp manner, because it facilitates multiple revisions. Because I am telling you why revisions are important, because UPSC nowadays is demanding precision from you. Alright, and I have illustrated this. Apart from that, it is very essential for us to look into the important current affairs and current affairs news and events of the past 1.5 years thoroughly, and 1.5 years sufficiently. Last 1 year's current affairs you need to know thoroughly, and 1.5 years you need to know sufficiently. Alright, this can be done by various newspapers, regular reading of newspapers, magazines and quiz. At least if you are not reading regular, now onwards start reading newspapers, the economy section. Start reading newspapers, economy section of the newspaper these 5 months. And I bet you that there will be at least 2 to 3 questions from these 5 months newspapers. Understanding my point? Or you can go for magazines. IS Baba provides wonderful magazines. Apart from that, daily quiz can also be answered. Understanding my point? And most importantly, we need to revise it 3 to 4 times. Regular tests should be taken, and test, when I mean tests, I mean topic-wise tests also and full-length tests also. And what I would suggest is, my dear friends, try to make a mistakes book. Meaning to say, whenever you are solving a test, and if you go wrong in a particular question, write down that question in the mistakes book. Revise it in a spaced repetition manner. That means, suppose you are going wrong in a question regarding banking. That means you do not have a clear understanding about banking. So what you should do, whenever you go wrong in any question, try to incorporate this question in a mistakes book. Create a separate 200-page notebook and write and give the title mistakes book to it. Write down these questions there and repeatedly revise them. You are going wrong because there is some flaw in your understanding. So if you repeatedly revise them, you are going to minimize your mistakes. The moment you minimize your mistakes, negatives will come down, and this automatically increases your chances of clearing these exams. Understanding, my dear friends? So revision, practice and precision all have become important because the winds are changing. Understanding? So my dear friends, I hope you got a sneak peek of as to how you are going to approach this exam. I know this is important, and understand one thing, without proper understanding of your previous year questions, without proper analysis, without properly focusing on areas which are important, you will not be able to complete your syllabus in the next 165 days. For you to complete your syllabus in the next 165 days, it is very, very essential for you to analyze previous year questions from these 3 vantage points. 1, topic mapping, content extraction and practicing. Because practicing, you will get familiar with the language of UPSC. This will improve your chances of preparation. I hope this video had made some difference in your preparation, and make sure that you are running this last lab with vigor, with excitement and with a purpose. Thank you.